She's an award-winning YouTuber and best-selling author obsessed with helping you go after the life you want.
I like it.
Join her as she seeks out the stories and strategies
Give me every little detail.
of extraordinary people who found success.
I'm going to get emotional. Oh my God.
Welcome to Detail Therapy with Amy Landino.
Good morning, good life. Welcome back to Detail Therapy. In this episode, we're getting into the details about my journey as a team leader in my business, how I figured out what I needed to hire for, when, and how I made it happen. And do you have what it takes to build a team? I have some leadership ideas and tips for you. If you're new here, thank you so much. And hello, my name is Amy Landino, and I will be your host. I'm the founder of Gatlu House, a resource dedicated to helping you go after the life you want. As your productive lifestyle and success coach, I'm here to help you achieve your full-time freedom. You can find out more details about our work, including videos, books, coaching, and the show notes for this podcast by visiting detailtherapy.online. So maybe you're getting a little business minded as you go into your new year. It's going to be right around the corner here soon. That's why I wanted to share some ideas for you today and make sure that you start off on the right foot. Remember, it's a grateful goodbye to 2020. 2021 may not be 100% better, but we will be 100% stronger. And so what you do with that time and how you go into your year and the mindset that you have is major. And maybe you got some perspective this year that being in business for yourself or running your team the way that you need to, in a way that maybe you've never done it before, maybe because you're just now getting one for the first time, or you are growing it because you've got this thought process around how you best use your time. All of these realizations that we may have had from having such a crazy, troubling year is important for us, especially if we actually plan to do something to make life a little bit better, stronger, faster, awesome. So that's my hope for you today. I'm going to share a little bit of my journey when it came to growing my team, if that is something that you're interested in. If it's not, hear me out, because trust me, samesies when I first started, but how it all came about, why I see things differently now, and how you can do it even if maybe you are still bootstrapping and aren't sure where you stand on the budget side of things. That's what we're going to talk about. So let's dive in, shall we? When I first started my business, let me tell you the entire reason I did it. Other than the fact that I fell in love with a skill set. Let's just talk about the perks, right? I just wanted to hang out at home with my dog. That's it. I didn't want to have to report to anybody. I didn't want to talk to anybody except for my community online and my clients, and that was it. I never really wanted to grow this huge company, but I definitely wanted to be home, safe, work in my office in the second bedroom, and work on my own terms. That was, from the outset, the most important thing. But what I realized after some time of executing was that there were things I was probably spending my time on that were a waste. Not necessarily a full waste, but definitely a waste of my head and my mind and my thought process and my decision-making process at moments that I didn't need to have it, right? So what I ended up doing very early on in my business, especially when I didn't have any cash yet, I was not ready to spend any of the money I was bringing in because I was just getting started on a team, because I needed to make sure I could live my life first. I was a little short-sighted in that perspective, but I at least started doing a few things right. One of the things I struggled with the most was just allowing that buffer to be there between me and the rest of the world, right? So if somebody said, hey, I'd love to pick your brain, or hey, I want you to speak at our event, or hey, I'd like to hire you, or hey, this, or hey, that. Sometimes you have to negotiate times and go back and forth. Sometimes you have to negotiate money and go back and forth. And then feelings get involved. And I don't like when feelings get involved. I know I have to be more in touch with my feelings, but I don't love when feelings get involved in business. So I needed that buffer. I couldn't hire somebody, or could I? This is my favorite team building secret in the world. It doesn't mean it's going to save you any time yet, but it's very helpful in the world of negotiation. This is when I hired Olivia. And I say Olivia with air quotes because Olivia was fake. Olivia was the coolest fake person ever who was absolutely my assistant. So Olivia would respond to my emails and Olivia was actually me. But what I was doing was giving myself a place where I could talk about who I was in a different headspace, who I was as a business executive, who I was as a speaker, who I was as an influencer, by allowing somebody else to represent me. It was a lot easier for me to not say, oh, sure, I can give you a discount, or, oh, sure, I can meet you for coffee at 8 a.m., even though I hate talking to anyone before noon. It was a lot easier to draw those lines by simply rerouting the conversation to, let's call it AI. It was me. It was straight up just me. To those of you who used to email Olivia, it was me, y'all. I just needed the separation. And you know what? Nobody will never have to know. You don't even have to put it on your podcast someday. It's just something great that you can do to start to see, all right, how many emails am I forwarding to my assistant, real or fake? How many emails am I forwarding? When you get into assistant mode and you know you have to go then reply to those emails and take care of them because you are the actual Olivia, you'll see, wow, I actually forwarded 10 emails today that, first of all, should I even have been checking them or should I have been focusing on something else? And secondly, imagine if somebody really was taking this inbox away from my plate. Look at all of the emails, interactions, back and forth, money talks, negotiations, scheduling. Look at all this time that I still have to spend on this. Now you can start to get perspective and say, in Olivia's inbox, I was there for 3 hours. Could I hire somebody for 3 hours, whether it was 3 hours for the week, 3 hours for the day? You take your individual situation, right? Maybe it was a total of 5 hours for the week because that's how I ended up starting. After I realized was forwarding enough emails that I didn't want to be the one checking that email anymore. And I needed somebody to be able to manage it for me. I hired my first real VA and she was starting only at 5 hours a week because I had to make sure that I could cover the expense, that I wasn't just going to, pull the rug out from under somebody who was really trying to help me. And that was very important to me. I wanted to make sure I knew what I had bit off so I could chew it appropriately. Okay. So that was when I hired my first real VA. By actually being able to see the work that I could send to someone immediately, I could justify the amount of money that I had in the budget and the amount of time which would align with that budget. So it was 5 hours a week, and that was really it. Once that happened, and here's where you get into micromanagement issues, right? It's so hard at first to give up your tasks. And I'm going to give some tips around this later because micromanagement is a real issue. It's hard to do that. My advice is if you don't know who that first person is, that first person for me, the easiest thing to take off my plate to fill that 5 hours right away was, first of all, just replying to some emails where some really easy copy paste information could be shared and scheduling my life. The thing that I was very obsessed with, my calendar, was also something I was very okay with passing off to someone else because I thought, well, they can't screw this up. How can you screw up the calendar? Now, listen, all of your team members are going to screw something up. You have to coach them. You have to teach them. You have to show them what you want. They're not just going to guess. They're not just going to get it right. If your team member does something wrong, it's on you. You did something wrong. You confused them. You didn't train them. You dropped the ball, period. Okay. Chris Ducker says this in his book, Virtual Freedom. My dear friend, his first book, highly recommended if you need some advice on this. There you go. You got that pro tip right away. It's literally, I learned that from him. So keep that in mind. But the easiest thing that I could take off my plate was the obvious first thing that I was going to hire somebody for when I realized even just getting 5 hours back in my life was perfect. It was exactly what I needed to feel the ROI that I needed from that. We worked together for a considerable period of time, but then I moved on to another team member who took over that same role, but was expanding a little bit more aware of copywriting, copy editing, helping me vet videos when they would go out. So I hired somebody else. That person, my dear friend Meg, worked not only for Gatlu House, but also at Aftermark as well in my other video production company that I own with my husband. So she had a multifaceted position and she was working in a lot of different capacities there. So the role continued to evolve. I continued to get better at saying and asking for help. Hey, I need somebody to help me with this. Can you do that? Can we make that a part of your job? What do I need to do to set you up for success with that? Not just throwing things their way, but asking, how do you feel about this? Does this fit your role? That's one of the biggest things that I think I would give as another tip here is I don't just assume I'm going to drop something in someone's lap because they are on my payroll. I just don't. I assume that a lot of leaders think that they are well within their right to do that. But I personally have found that the more I've done that in the past, and I haven't done much of it, but when I have, it just gets to be a lot and it gets to be confusing. And I don't want my team members to ever feel like they can't talk to me and ever feel like they can't get clarity. And sometimes when you put too much in their lap, it gets to that point. So always having a conversation about, I'm thinking I need to offload this task to you or offload this task in general. How does this feel like it could work in your workflow? What does that look like? Not having the conversation saying, you're going to do this, right? But having it in a way where they feel open to give you feedback, like, well, here's what would help me get that done better or faster or accurate the first time. And really making it a conversation, not a I'm in charge of you kind of thing. So that was really big. But at the point where Meg was moving on, it was a conundrum for me. Meg and I sat down and I was like, okay, she's going full time into her business now. I love it. She's learned from me. She's going to go do her thing. But now I need to find someone in her place. And when we sat down, the two of us, this was a couple years ago, we sat down and I said, how many jobs are we doing? Like, if we sit down and we look at everything you're doing and everything I'm doing, when we looked at it and the things I wanted to take off my plate additionally, because as you get better at this, it grows and grows, I realized that even with one person leaving, I actually needed to hire 3 full-time positions in addition to the work that I was doing. So that was a major moment where we needed to do that, and we did. And it was amazing also working so well with somebody that they could also help to train the people coming on. They can't do it all. They've got to move on at some point, but they can definitely help that transitional period, which is huge. And ever since then, I not only have this internal team and we are continuing to grow, but I also have freelancers who work for me, people who are best off serving their own business, but working for me as if they're a right-hand man, like podcast editing. Shout out to you, Andrew, for listening right now. Cinematography, design, things that I don't necessarily need right next to me all the time, but definitely a major, major component of the business. So there's definitely different levels of management skills that I need for this, different levels of leadership, different levels of interaction, and so much more. And I would love to share with you now some of the ways that I've been able to make that happen, the mindset shifts that I've had to do this. Being able to run the show means showing up for the people you lead, which is why I'm so proud to have SHRM as our spotlight sponsor of Detail Therapy today. They are an organization who truly understands the importance of creating better workplaces for a better world. SHRM is the Society for Human Resource Management, and they are the foremost expert, convener, and thought leader on issues impacting today's evolving workplaces. One of the programs they have is called the PMQ, People Manager Qualifications. It's a unique interactive learning experience that will help people managers gain the skills they need to build high-performing teams, to improve workplace culture, and reduce employee turnover. I love that it's an interactive learning experience virtually, which is right on point for how we're getting work done at a time like this, easy to access from all of our home offices. And just like you love to binge my videos, they have binge-worthy edutainment as well, helping you learn faster, even with gamification to keep things really interesting. At the end, you receive a final dynamic behavioral assessment so that you can earn your people manager qualification, a great boost to any resume. As someone who takes self-development very seriously in my life, I think the same of continuing to grow my skills as a leader. As a business owner, you can never expect your employees to have the same skin in the game as you do, but you can always find ways to help them go after the lives they want, so they will be more fulfilled as a member of your team. Learn more about the SHRM PMQ today. I will leave a link in the show notes, and if you use my code Amy100_PMQ, you'll get $100 off your first PMQ purchase. Check it out. One of the big questions I think we need to ask ourselves if we're saying we need more help. I think I could hire somebody, but I don't know how or for what or how much it would cost me and how much I can sustain it. One of the big questions to help you get on the right track is to ask yourself, what are you spending time on that feels productive, but is actually just busy? I teeter-tottered on this so much with video editing, partially because video editing for me has been a creative outlet. I still thoroughly enjoy it when I do it. I know that sounds crazy, but it really was my roots into starting a business. So there's a good reason for that. But teetering on the line of, okay, at some point, these videos are a little cookie cutter and somebody who's better at video editing than me could honestly do it, and it would be better time spent for them than it would be for me. Why? Because I'd be able to employ them versus me being able to get that time back to go do other work. The same would go for copywriting, content management, making sure the blog is publishing content, making sure everything is cohesive, working together, designed accordingly, which is what a content manager on my team would do. And then my virtual assistant, my executive assistant now, same thing, but on a grander scale, many more emails, many more inquiries, making sure everybody's getting routed to the right customer service, etc. So there's a lot of things. Checking email is busy. Video editing now, unless I'm working on something that my heart is in completely, which everything I do, my heart is in, but usually it's just when I'm talking to you that my heart is in it, not the actual post-production part. So deciphering that is really big. Making sure you get content is in my heart. Making sure that content is great is in my heart. Actually typing it up and getting it on a blog, not as much. So looking at that and saying, what is the difference between feeling productive and being productive and feeling productive and actually just being busy and telling yourself a story? Checking email, scrolling social media when you say it's your job, trying to copy edit something that's not due yet, or whatever the case may be in your particular business model. What are you saying to yourself is productive that is actually just busy? Those are where we can start to unpack the opportunities that you would have to grow your team, to nurture a team, to help take things off your plate that you do not need to do. Really big. This is a great question I heard from Michael Hyatt, who actually I think was an investor in the company I hired my first VA from. He was related in some capacity, and he got me convinced when he asked this question. Would you ever pay your virtual assistant or your assistant, would you ever pay them $100 an hour? Would you ever pay them $500 an hour? Would you ever pay them $1,000 an hour? If the answer is no, then why are you already doing it? And that one stumped me, right? I was like, what? What is he saying? Because if you're spending too much time in your email, if you're spending too much time video editing something somebody else could do, if you're spending too much time doing stuff you suck at, and you keep telling yourself you need to micromanage and you cannot afford to pay somebody else to do, you know what? You're probably actually right, because you're not going to make more money per hour, per month, per year, per P&L statement, because you're not spending your time on things that make you money. The special moment happens when you pay somebody and they help you get something done that makes you money so that you can get more work like that. And what we really mean when we say scale is that something is able to operate without you and it is still growing and it is still making money. This is one piece of that puzzle, hiring people to help you with the things that you suck at or the things that you don't have to do. Period. It is not a hierarchy. It is just factual business structure. You don't have to act better than somebody just to say, I need help with this and I would be willing to pay you for it. Or I need help with this. I don't have the budget to pay you for it. However, let's figure out ways that we can be mutually beneficial to each other. And then maybe there will be a point where we can proceed with this relationship in a more official capacity. You've got to get creative. If you need the help, you've got to get creative. So here are some leadership tips, some team growing tips that I really advise in this situation for you. First, accept mistakes for what they are. Mistakes are just mistakes. It's like I said earlier, if you don't train properly, if you don't bring your team in and show them the way, there's going to be mistakes. They're going to happen anyway, even if you went above and beyond. See them for what they are. They are mistakes. But give your team the credit that they will learn from those mistakes. Some people won't, and those people deserve to get fired as quickly as possible. You want to hire slow and fire fast. But if you know you've got someone on your team who learns from their mistakes and they show you that they do and they continue to break down their doors and really open up to you and have conversations with you, even nerve-wracking conversations just so they can do their job better, you will see those personalities for who they are and you will know that they are keepers. And those who are not. And that's just how it is. But the key thing here is taking the mistakes that happen and making them teaching opportunities. If it's a huge mistake, you have to hugely take credit for that mistake and then hugely explain how we make sure that doesn't happen again in the future and ask for help. Do not dictate terms. Ask for the help of keeping that mistake from happening in the future. If it's a small mistake, it doesn't mean there's not a teaching opportunity there, but it is something that you need to be cognizant of, right? Just allowing somebody to say, crap, I messed that up. Okay, well, thank you for letting me know you messed that up. Let's move on. It's going to happen. There's a scale. If there's a big mistake and you're like, these guys cannot do this again, I really, really, really need their eyeballs on this, that's okay. Just explain that. Just explain it. You give them an opportunity to grow. And unfortunately, most of us only learn when we have adversity, which is really sad. But it is a moment for you to put your big girl pants on and say, listen, I need to have a difficult conversation because this cannot happen again. Please learn, okay? Got to teach. Next, celebrate the lives your team wants. They didn't choose the same route as you. They chose something a little bit different. Celebrate that. When somebody's having a huge, exciting moment in their life, do something nice for them and say, thank you for being a part of my team, but also I see you. I see this is happening. I'm happy for you. I'm so glad you are living fully expressed, and I'm rooting for you because you working for me is a part of your lifestyle design, and so is this other thing going on, and all of it's working for me. So thank you. The more you celebrate the people that are a part of your team for the lives that they've chosen for themselves, the more they're going to feel invested on your team. Because guess what? Your team members are not invested. You are. You're the owner. You're the manager. You're the one who's got your butt on the line. They can find another job. They may not think they can. They may think it's very hard to find another job, and it is hard to find another job. But it is not their job to care the most about your business. It is your job. So you've got to show them you care about their business as well, and their business is probably something personal. Next, instead of micromanaging, and this one I've gotten really good at to the point where I think my team's sick of it, but it's okay because it's good for the future of the organization. Instead of micromanaging, or instead of taking a task back and saying, forget it, I'll take care of it. Instead of micromanaging, record your screen. Use a screen recording software, even if they're just recording your face. You can record your face and talk, or record your screen and show somebody how to do something. Every time you do that, you add instructions to your archive, to your future team members and how they can learn. and how they will always know what your preference is for a certain thing. And these things can change over time, but when you have a video recording, it is so much easier for your team to pick up what you're putting down. And it's easy for them to refer back to, or for a future team member to refer to that documentation. And you may not have to train more than one time because of that. And we really see a significant decrease in lack of understanding and mistakes because of the screen capture software, where I just basically say, like, I love this, I hate this, don't ever do this again, always do this. Done story. The links are ready for them to watch anytime they want. And the last thing I'll say, there's so many other things. I highly recommend that you do your research and sign up for the programs that teach you how to be a good leader. I'm still continuing to learn. But one of the biggest things that we implemented in the last year were touch bases. I always had a really negative feeling about touch bases in the past because when I worked for a corporate company that had scheduled touch bases with team lead, it was always a train wreck. It was always like I had to be scared of what was going to happen. My team lead was really selfish and hired me to make her look good, and it all ended up crashing and burning in the end. And so every touch base was a nightmare. And the last touch base I had, I cried, I left the room, I grabbed my purse, and I told her boss I quit. It was very, very awful. I don't want to talk about it. This was a very short job that I had. But anyway, touch bases do not have a good place in my heart. But when I realized I could make them what I needed them to be, that made me change my mind. So my thought processes on this are schedule touch bases for them. Them is your team. Touch bases are for them. And you schedule reviews for you. Here's the thing. You're the boss. Anytime something's going wrong, you're going to tell them. Like, probably on the daily. So you don't need scheduled meetings to tell people what's going wrong. They pretty much already know. Your touch bases are an opportunity for you to sit down and just listen. It is a chance for you to learn more about the people you're working with, what's important to them, what they're afraid of, what they haven't been understanding lately. I actually have a slated list of questions I ask at every touch base. Every once in a while, I'll throw them for a loop and say, hey, we're not answering any of the questions today. I just want to hear how your life's going. But every single question is to equip them to be able to answer in a way that would better support them, in a way for me to get a better understanding of what they're struggling with in their work, for them to get clarification on what they're doing, or for them to share what's going on in their personal life. The number of times I can tell you I've finished a touch base and I'm like, okay, well, I think that's it. And then they're like, oh, I have to tell you something. And it's like, I'm engaged, I'm pregnant, I'm this, I'm that. And it's that opportunity that they finally get to have to sit me down, scheduled on the calendar once a month, no matter what, to be able to talk about it. So touch bases are for them. Reviews are for me. I've got Slack, I've got Trello, I've got screen recording software to let people know in real time how to fix things or how to do things or how to make their mistakes better. The reviews are those annual, or if you want semi-annual moments to say, here's what I've seen from you, here's where I would like you to go with it, here's where I think you can continue to grow, and if you're eligible for a raise, here you go. So the reviews happen way less frequently because I just don't need a scheduled meeting to complain. Unless it's like, you're really not doing good, I got to let you go, which quite frankly would never be happening at a review because I fire fast. Okay. So schedule those touch bases, have them regularly. I have mine once a month with every team member. There may be a point in your organization where you can barely meet with people once a year because you just have too many people, and you might even have to hire people to deal with all those touch bases. It's going to depend for everyone. I can meet my team once a month, and it's usually 15 to 30 minutes. And it's usually actually 30 minutes, just because I want them to feel like they have that time with me and it's fully focused. I'm not looking at my phone. I'm not checking my email. I let them know that I have that time no matter what, just to hear what's on their mind. And I also point the conversation in the right direction by giving them those questions so they don't feel like they're coming to a meeting and don't know what to say or how to phrase it. So It might be interesting if I shared those questions with you at some point so you can see how you might direct a touch base. Let me know if that's something you'd be interested in. Come and tell me that on the Details Podcast Instagram for this episode. I'd love to see if that's of interest to you. Don't forget to check out the PMQ program from SHRM. This will surely help you with your people management skills. Check that out with the link in the description. Make sure you use my code for a discount so you can save some of that very, very hard-earned money. Thank you so much to everyone who left a 5-star review on this podcast. If you would potentially like to win a little something special from me, make sure that you go and leave that review in the Apple Podcast store. 5 stars would be amazing, but true and honest is all I am asking you for. That's all for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate it as always. Remember, subscribe for good vibes, kiss the ones you love, and go after the life you want. I'll see you back here on Tuesday. Cheers.